Afternoon, councillors and members in the gallery. It's just past 4:30, so I'll open the council meeting for today. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Bit of housekeeping, all phones turned on silent, please. If asked to evacuate, we exit via the doors, twin doors into the chambers and take a right turn out on the footpath and await further instructions. Live streaming, this meeting is being streamed live and recorded and made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending or speaking in public forum should refrain from making defamatory statements. Next item on the agenda is public forum, and we have a speaker in public forum today. Is Miss Rachel Dormore? Sorry about that. Anyway, it's for the motion item 12.16-25/101, DA for subdivision 3 lots at 4207 Victoria Gully Road. Rachel, you will have 5 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a little warning at 4-minute mark.
No worries, thank you. Look, this was just a quick, I just wanted to attend. I know it's gone up for recommendation for approval. It was just a quick acknowledgement of council staff for their assessment of the application, how quick they got onto it, and the consideration of the variation request. And yeah, just happy to answer any questions if councillors have any. So just a quick one today.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Do any councillors have any questions of Rachel? It looks like a no, Rachel, so thank you very much for your presentation.
No worries, thank you.
It's always good to hear staff get a plug. The next item on the agenda is a statement of ethical obligations, which I take is read by everyone and understood. Attendances, we have Councillor Flannery, who's notified us that he's running 5 to 10 minutes late, and we have Councillor Stadmiller, who's attending by Zoom. Do I need to ask for that to be accepted?
Yes.
It's just a taken. Okay. All those in favour of supporting that request to attend by Zoom, raise your hands, please. Against? It's carried. Thank you. Next item, councillors, is expressions of sympathy. I would ask everyone to be upstanding, please. And we'll pause for a moment's silence for the following: Dorothy Jeffries, Brian Smithers, Alfaith Abdullah, David Harries, Eric Basham, Mervyn Wells, Gregory Brodwick, June Spencer, Mary Turner, Donald Smith, Neil Wells, Pamela Mantle, Terence Fitzgerald, Marie Stubbs, Gabriella Deed, Edward Brown, Elizabeth McGregor, and Richard Matrice. Thank you, everybody. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is the confirmation of the minutes from Council's ordinary meeting in March. Do I have a mover or a seconder? Councillor Blackwell. Seconded. Councillor Davies. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next item is disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosure of interest for tonight's meeting by anyone? Take that as a no. Mayoral minute, there's no mayoral minute at this meeting. Item 9.1 is the Merrill Diary Report for March, April. It's there in front of you, councillors. I'll just mention briefly and quickly, on the 9th of April, it was a pleasure to be invited to welcome 16 new paramedics to Young to service our district, and the Young Ambulance Station becomes a 24-hour station. So it's a great upgrade. It'll be a great benefit to all the surrounding communities, and it's just another sign that Young being recognised as a hub with a big feeder area. The second point to that, on the same area of health, on the 14th of April, was the opening of the Medicare Mental Health Clinic, something that a couple of much larger cities have had one open, but for one to be opened in Young, it's also a recognition of the growth in our community, in our area, and is much needed and much welcomed. On that, could I have a mover and a seconder to that be accepted? Councillor Dodd, thank you. Councillor Blackwell, thank you. Takes me over to councillors' reports. Sorry? All those in favour? Unanimous, I hope. I just got to remember to look at the screen, that's all. Sometimes I forget about Zoom. So now we'll go to councillor meetings attended. First of all, do I have a mover and a seconder? Move Blackwell, seconded. Councillor Foreman. All those in favour? That's unanimous. So now I'll go around, councillors, and I'll start, because I missed last time and we can't have that happening. I'll start at the start. Councillor Foreman, would you like to mention anything?
No meetings at minute, thank you.
I have one question for Councillor Foreman in regard to 7th of April meeting with HRDC. I was just wondering what that was. I asked the General Manager, he didn't know anything, and I never knew anything, and the Deputy Mayor didn't know anything. I was just wondering.
Melissa Pinney is she has
She's
a
a new-
new
yep.
role with, and because I do the business things, and I used to meet with Antonia from time to time about Mother's Day things for business
So
things. That
my point is, Councillor, it was you're representing the business chamber
yes.
at that meeting, not council.
Well, she asked to meet with me, so I guess it's part council work and
I'm just trying to split hairs, Councillor.
Oh, well, you are, because you're asking me a question, and I feel that was relevant to let people know that I met with Melissa. So,
as leader of the business chamber in Young.
well, she didn't contact me as leader of the business chamber. She contacted me via my councillor emails. So I put that down as a councillor matter.
Thank you. Is there any relevant council matters that were discussed at that meeting that the full council should know about?
Look, there was a lot of things discussed. We discussed many things in Harden. We discussed the dog parks. We discussed the train station. I mean, lots of things.
What did they think about the dog park in the Newson Park over there?
She said she would take it back and consider it.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
As minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Mackie. Thank you. Councillor Douglas.
I apologise, I was late, but as minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Blackwell.
Yes, just to add the Ribbery Community Barbecue on April 16th.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
As minuted, I just forgot the Wombat Progress Association meeting on the 1st of April.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Councillor Langford.
Yeah, as minuted, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd.
As written, I would just like to comment really briefly on the Southwest Zone Public Libraries Association meeting, and just to acknowledge how many areas of the community that the library is engaged with, from seniors to young people, and the toddlers, parents, and just what a great job our library does and our library staff do. And when you see what's going on in the zone, lots of things are going on, but our library is up there with all the activities and the services they provide. So I'd like to acknowledge that, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Community Recognition Scheme. Councillor Stadmiller.
Meetings as minuted, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I'll just pause for a moment. Councillor Flannery has arrived. And we're just doing the Councillor Diaries, Councillor Flannery, and it's Up to you.
Thank you. Meetings as ministered, the workshops go along progress and one other that I can't remember now.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the Community Recognition Scheme. Do we have any nominations this month? I'll take that as a no. Moves us on to the General Manager's Report. I have a mover and a seconder for the General Manager's Report. Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you, councillors. Takes us over to 12.2. The merger poll referendum process and estimated costs. There's a report there, councillors, and the recommendation is to receive and note the report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Davis. Any questions in regard to the report?
Just a question here, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Stadmiller.
Where do we go to here, Mr Mayor, after we receive and note the report? There's a process with about 10 steps, but receiving and noting the report doesn't take us too much further unless that process is followed.
Thank you, councillor. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller, did you vote?
I'll be against, Mr Mayor. It doesn't actually.
Thank you.
anywhere if it's received.
Next item is 12.3. The Financial Improvement Strategy, April Progress Update. The report there, councillors. We'll also receive and note the information. Do I have a mover and a seconder to start with? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Dodd, thank you. Any questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 4.4 is a report from Burrawa Showground Users Group. There's a report there from the General Manager, and the recommendation reads, receive and note the report, note the consensus of the users that an irrigation system be pursued for the back area of the Burrawa Showground, and receive a further report to establish a Burrawa Sports Advisory Group after an invitation application process has been undertaken. So I'll get a mover and a seconder first. Councillor Mackie, thank you. Councillor Douglas. Have any questions for the General Manager or anything in regard to that?
Yes, a question from me,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Blackwell.
Just a question on, are there any suggestions on how such funding might be achieved? I'm presuming grants, and like, have we done any work on that regard, or is it kind of being held off until we get the Burrawa Sports Advisory Group?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's been no discussion about how to potentially fund that. It's just been an estimation of the project, but certainly there was full support of the people that attended, and certainly, as I said here, they would like a sports advisory group, and that would be something that they would discuss and, advocate for.
Could I just make a comment, please? Also, would it be, considering that we have a young sports advisory group, and we also are now going to try and establish a Burrawa advisory group, would it also be worth looking into doing a Hardin Murrumbara advisory group? Then we have the three different bodies, the three different towns all represented under a sports advisory group. Then going forward, we could also, that would also help with the sports strategic plan that was a resolution of council last council term.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm in your hands, councillors.
No further comments on the report? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Councillor Stadmiller, it's unanimous. Next item on the agenda, councillors, is the draft Hilltops Council Integrated Planning and Reporting Documents.
So moved.
Move Councillor Flannery,
Second with an amendment, please.
second with an amendment. So, Councillor Douglas, would you like to tell us about your amendment?
I would like to amend the rate for Young. While the Young Water and Sewer Fund is currently delivering a strong operational result, I believe that a proposal of no increase may place pressure on our ability to, in the future, to cover operational costs. To ensure long-term sustainability, I would like to propose a 2.2 increase, which changes from the 4.4 that was previously considered, to ensure that we still are providing a responsible increase for ongoing future costs.
Does the mover accept that amendment?
No, Mr Mayor.
Okay, then that amendment will be now debated. So Councillor Douglas has just moved her amendment. Has Deirdre, have you got that? Councillor Douglas, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Yes. So if I'm reading the report right, we weren't going to increase the young water and sewage rates this year. We were just going to keep it as normal. I do propose that we only increase to 2.2 instead of the considered 4.4.
Question first, did you say water and sewer or just water?
Young water and sewer fund charges. Are they separate?
Thank you.
Yeah, there's through you, Mr. Mayor. The water, we've done an analysis on water, not sewer. It's the water. It is just the water.
No,
Oh no, I'm sorry.
sorry, Mr. General Manager. I'll ask the mover of the amendment again.
Just the water. I apologise.
Thank you.
Just the water.
Okay, we're clear on that. Thank you. So I've spoke for it. I'll speak against the amendment. As I spoke in a workshop, councillors recently, and also 12 months ago in regard to the Young Water Fund, Councillor Douglas is right in one respect that the Young Water Fund is a money maker. Just put aside for a second that the water and sewer funds aren't meant to make big financial profits. They're meant to manage the water services we need and the ongoing upgrades, which the current Young Water Fund does. Well, we're looking to move an amendment to have no increase to the Young Water Fund user access and user charges this financial year, given the numbers that are reported to us in regard to that fund. If we were to leave, I'll make it simple, if we were to leave the rates for the young water at the same as 24-25 and expected charges that council have laid out for us, we'd have a surplus of approximately $1,100,000. If every fund that Hilltops Council dealt with could provide a service like that, we'd be partying every night of the week. Now, when I say nearly 1.1 million in surplus, that's before capital grants, and that's also taken into consideration the $700,000 for depreciation that's taken off that number. Not to mention, and don't quote me, but it's close, $8.4 million in the reserve fund. Staff have a job to do. Staff were instructed, run 4.4 over all these funds. And councillors, I'm here to tell you today, this is our budget. We're the ones who make the decisions. We're the ones who need to have some input on a case-by-case basis, because this throwing the blanket over everything doesn't work. I could go into great depths about, as I spoke at the workshop, in relation to some of the other funds. If you want to charge Young 2.2, you've got to charge one of these other funds about 22% to make them viable. I don't want to go there. I just want to concentrate on the water users and payers in the former Young LGA who are paying above overs, have been for a long time, 25%, just about more than the same water that the Harden residents get. And good luck to them. And their fund's going all right. But every year, we'll throw 4.4 over everyone. It is not fair, it is not equitable, and it's absolutely, I think, downright rude. So because it is our budget, I'll be voting against 2.2, and I'll be moving an amendment of my own. I have no problems ongoing years. It's to be treated yearly, 1 year at a time. This year we had a forecast over $1 million surplus, and everyone's clapping their hands and saying, oh, well done. We have the same forecast for next year without slugging the water users in the former Young LGA another $47 a head. For what? To say we make a $1.3 million surplus after the $760,000 depreciation has come off. I cannot in good conscience vote for any increase in the water fund in Young. That's me. Anyone else like to speak to the amendment? No? Anyone else like to speak against the amendment? No? Then I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands. Those against? That amendment is lost. On that note, I'd like to move an amendment. And I'll pass this on to our, and welcome back to our Secretary of Council Meetings. And the amendment I will move is that before the Council's budget summary and revenue plan is placed on public exhibition, the access and user charges relating to the Young Water Fund are returned to the rates set for the 2024-2025 budget. So now, I don't really need to say any more to that amendment. I've just had 4 or 5 minutes speaking against by any rise. I don't think there's anything else I could say. I can give you more numbers if you like. I can direct you to the pages to look at it to make sure that what's being said is accurate. I just believe that this year needs to be looked at with facts on the numbers, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I would ask for support in that amendment. Is that amendment accepted by the mover first?
Yes, I'll accept that amendment.
Thank you. I should have done that before I spoke again to it. So that's now dot point D. And be up on the screen, I hope, for everyone. So, councillors, before we go any further with that item, I'll open the room to any further questions regarding this report. It's a lengthy report on a number of matters about the budget, and I'm sure councillors have questions, so we'll deal with them firstly. Anyone got any questions regarding the budget paper?
I have my own amendment, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
I'd like to move an amendment that before the budget papers go out for public review, that we add $35,000 each for Boorowa and Harden council chambers to upgrade them to hold council meetings. If this does pass, I'll be introducing, and the budget passes in May, I will have a motion in that meeting to allow for the rotation of the meetings across the two towns once works are complete. But I'm hoping to add the money in the budget now to signify that the council is willing to move in that direction. There's not much more to say to that. I think it's,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I'll ask the mover of the matter, does he accept that amendment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Would you like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Blackman?
Yes, thank you. I think it is an important change with regard to equity. You know, many residents in Boorowa and Harden have spoken to me about the need and desire to have council meetings in their respective towns both as a point of principle and as a point of practicality. I think it's important that, you know, many of them have raised the issue of things that were promised in the demerger or not. I wasn't here at the time, so I can't speak to that. But many of them have raised the issue as one of equity and of access. And I think as a Boorowa resident, it is important that, you know, we try and do that. And so adding in the money shows that, is the first step to getting the meetings rotated. And again, if this does pass, I will have a motion in May to facilitate the rotation once the funds are available.
Thank you for that, councillor. Just before I go to anyone who want to speak, where are you suggesting the funds come from?
Adding in new money.
Sorry?
I'm not proposing to cut money from somewhere else.
Where are you suggesting the money will come from if this was successful?
The general fund.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to speak against that amendment? I will if no one else wants to.
Need a second, actually.
Actually, we do need a seconder. Councillor Mackie seconded. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against it? Okay, I'll open the floor then. I'll speak against it. Thank you for your amendment, councillor. We had a discussion and a vote about this matter once before in regards to moving meetings back to the other communities, and it was decided not to. I appreciate you following up on what you've made a commitment before the elections. The money you're asking for, besides it could be spent in a lot better places, is no value. Understand and realise, first time council, I've been in council 13 years. I know how many people come to council meetings. I know how many come to meetings in Boorowa, and I know how many come in Harden. To suggest to use that sort of money to redo a building, to use maybe twice or three times a year with no one to attend, isn't good value for money. That's besides the point of community in Boorowa. The facility there isn't really big enough for councillors and staff to start with. And I was on the belief that from the General Manager in regard to the council facility in Harden that's been nearly demolished by the storm, that this was a time when the implementation of a plan that's been there for a while to turn that building into a meeting place where the community could hold their meetings and have somewhere where they could go to, because they haven't got anywhere at the moment that they can go to and have a community meeting that's not 140 years old. So my understanding was the idea was with insurance was to, and I'll pass to the General Manager if you'd like to maybe confirm the idea of what was going to happen there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, when I arrived, I did question the councillors at that time, the three chambers. That's certainly a decision for councillors to maintain and rotate those. What I did say at the time was it's an opportunity to have a community space for meeting space, particularly in Harden now. We have a business in the Mechanics Institute. We have a childcare in the racecourse building. We have an aged care facility provider in the old tennis club parts. This is an opportunity to fit out the space where the chambers are, which has been damaged, and yes, we are waiting on insurance. An opportunity to fit that out for the purpose of a community meeting space. I'm in your hands.
One more question for General Manager, probably. The councillors proposed that this funding, $70,000 or $80,000, comes out of the general fund. And would that be the general fund that's currently running at a $9 million deficit? And this would just go on to that? Is that what my understanding? So it would add to that deficit in the general fund?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for explaining that. Would anyone else like to speak for the amendment?
I'd like to speak for.
Councillor Stadmiller.
From what I've just heard, come to the conclusion that the Harden Shire Council chambers may cease to exist. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it sounds like it could be the case in the interim. But we've got a perfectly good meeting space in the Harden Country Club facility up there, which costs more than $10 million and sits 250 people. So that's probably pretty good already for the community to use. If it's the first nail in the coffin of Harden for having council chambers going forward, if there is a demerger, I don't know where we're going to hold our meetings. there's only 9 of us elected at the moment now, and I can tell you, not only am I embarrassed, but I'm probably ashamed to be sitting at home at the moment, but I have an illness that doesn't facilitate me in getting over to the young council chambers, so I'm one of the 9 councillors, and I'm disabled at the moment and have been for a number of months, and that could be seen as a luxury for Councillor Stadler to have cameras put in, but we had cameras put in at all 3 of the council chambers before, and they worked perfectly fine. I've looked at the costings myself. I don't agree with what the costings were previously put out by council, and if we can't look after one person who's counselling disabled on here, let alone take on all of the correct judgment calls about community involvement and participation and so forth, and unity and sharing the meetings around, what Young is going to become is the hub. We've had 16 ambulance people go there, and that's great serving a wider community. It's obviously the local government hub of the 3 towns as well. I'm not sure whether we're merged under a brand of Hilltops or we're not merged at all, or what. So I'll leave it at that. People can vote with their conscience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Would anyone like to speak against the Councillor Dodd?
I'd like to speak against it. However, I think that we can spend the $70,000 elsewhere. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, for each. $70,000 better elsewhere. But I do like the idea of going out to Boorowa and Harden, because I think it shows a willingness of council to engage with the community. But I think there's probably a better way to do that than to have council to upgrade the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, speak for.
I just want
Councillor
to,
Mackie?
through you, Mr Mayor, I just want to support James and his consideration for the outposts, which seem to be of Young, that we are an amalgamated council, and I do know, coming from a town like Boorowa, people are involved, and it's a bit of an assault on how interested people are in their local government when you say you don't think people will turn up. I mean, you may talk about it as from past experience, but I think you need to give them the benefit of the doubt, because we do have, it's a substantial building, and I don't think it's too small to accommodate a good crowd of people. I think James has got a great idea that, you know, and for someone who's driven over here, you know, and supported this chamber, Dodge Roos, you know, for the last 4 years going home, you know, it's the same distance from Young to Boorowa it is from Boorowa to Young.
Thank you, Councillor, for that. I'm up to someone else like to speak against. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, there's definitely some very good reasons for rotating it. My view is that there's a lot of areas we need to spend money on. Only last week I had a couple of residents of the former Harden Shire ask what can be done about the signage around town, street signage, entrance signage. I guess my view is if I thought we had a spare $35,000 for Harden or Boorowa, I'd probably allocate it to the showground. And Harden definitely needs signage, and even later in this report it talks about pedestrian crossings, and it missed the one that got scrubbed out in Neil Street. So there's a lot of areas we can spend money. Rightly or wrongly, not many people turn up to council meetings, and I think if you think about what spending this money would do, it would be putting audio equipment in the rooms so that people don't have to turn up. So it's actually a bit of a, vicious circle or cycle that you're funding audio visual equipment so people can sit comfortably at home and say, oh, they've turned up in Harden and they've turned up in Boorowa. And I think the reality is no one moved a recommendation that we go to step 2 of the demerger. I didn't see anyone say, can we allocate $70,000 for that? So on one hand, there seems to be a proxy vote that, oh, well, we are where we are. And part of that is that Young has become, the administrative hub of Hilltops Council. Yep, I would like to see more engagement with Harden and Boorowa. I definitely would like to see that, but I think for the sake of spending $70,000, there are certainly other areas in Harden and I know in Boorowa where we could spend that money, which doesn't lessen the budget, but also engages with the community more. So,
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Okay. Unless there's someone else would like to speak, yeah, unless
Could I engage a right of reply if it's okay, Mr. Mayor?
you will in a moment,
Sorry.
Councillor, you most certainly will. Would anyone else like to speak in regard to the matter, either for or against? Councillor Blackwell, would you like your right of reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two brief comments. The first is regarding the adding of new money as opposed to cutting money from elsewhere. I just wanted to make the point that I couldn't in good conscience advocate for cutting money from the very needed roads budget and our budgets that we have. So the reason for it being new, essentially new money, is to present the idea independently on its own. I did not want to be in a position where potentially those who might have supported the idea in principle could not have done so because of a cut to something else. Actually, no, it was only the 1 point. I'm sorry. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, councillors. On that note, Councillor Blackwell's amendment's there. I'll put that amendment. All those in favour? Against? That is lost. Thank you, councillor. Okay, so are there any more amendments to be moved before I go around with regarding questions to the budget papers? No, okay. So, councillors, I'm open to questions in regarding to the budget on any matter that you might have. Councillor Foreman.
Okay, I would like to speak against your motion and
Well,
are we
yep,
up to
you
that
can,
yet?
you can do that, yeah, if you want to. Yep.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And also ask a couple of questions if I
Okay,
may.
thank you.
So look, I've got a lot of concerns about this because I feel that the money that we have in our Young Water Fund is actually for capital works, and it's actually helps with aging infrastructure. So as we know, all the costs are going up. We are the biggest town. We have the most infrastructure that is aging. And if there is an emergency or if something happens, we have that money to look after the township of Young. I don't think it's right to also, just say Young's got enough and the other two towns, well, Young, Bora, you don't, and Harden, you can just skip along happily. I think it's the Hilltops region, as I've stated many a time before. And the two questions that I have is, if we were to not, to go with Mayor Ingram's motion, what would the effects be of this if it was implemented long term, and what are the long term benefits if there are any?
Who are you asking the question to, council, myself or?
To the director or the general manager would be.
Well, I'll
would
say
be
mine for the right
preferred.
of reply, so I pass to whoever would like to take it on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as indicated in the report, the revenue foregone for the 25-26 year would be 246,000 for that year and ongoing in that space, and that money therefore would not be available for future capital works at a future point in time.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Foreman,
So then, long term, so we're losing $246,000 each and every year that this stays implemented. And you can say that it's only for this year, but then we have to reverse it all for the next financial year and revote. So why would we just not do it for 1 year? I don't understand. And we also would have to, if something happened, we'd also possibly have to apply for a loan to budget or to help with the ageing infrastructure. I don't know. And what are the benefits? Like, what's the long-term benefit of just putting Young on hold for 12 months?
thank you. I'll use my right of reply to answer your questions. Thank you, councillor. So I'll just say the right of reply on the amendment. I'll go back to the item that's in front of us, is a big item with that amendment with it, is the budget. It is the to put on exhibition Hilltops Community Strategic Plan, draft Hilltops Council Delivery Program, the draft Hilltops Fees and Charges, Revenue Policy. As councillors knows, there's a lot of pages there. Have any councillors got any questions in regard to the budget? Councillor Blackwell.
I do, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. Thank you. With regards to the water charges in Boorowa and the Boorowa Water Fund, there is in the documents a table of sorts mapping out different potential charge increases. Obviously, currently we're looking at a 4% or 4.4, sorry, percent. Have we thought about engaging with the community around what the future of the Boorowa Water Fund might look like, what long-term that financial, there is a financial problem there with regards to Boorowa and its water fund. Have we thought about how that long-term we can kind of start to rectify that problem with, there's a 4.4% increase. What does this look like long-term? What changes can we be making in the long term to address some of these issues?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason the table is in there is part of the discussion at the briefing was the recognition that the Boorowa Water Fund was its state was poor. It was in the future it would not have enough money to do everything that it needed to do, and councillors requested some scenarios, as in what certain percentages would look like. So they're presented to you. The ranges from the 4.4%, which is the just over $45,000, right through to 104 at various percentages, rising from the 4.4 to 10. No, there has not been a direct conversation with the Boorowa community because the consideration of those ranges of percentage increases was only raised at the briefing, and certainly going forward we can have a broader discussion with the community about the way forward for water for Boorowa. That would include the discussion about where the fund is currently, what is upcoming capital works that are required for the system that is in place, and what might be the conditions of the pipeline that we've often talked about later. So I'm happy to take that on board and do that, and bring a report back to council as into a community engagement process for Boorowa Water.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I'm still got the floor to questions in regard to the budget. Councillor Flannery.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the staff for the budget in a timely manner. A couple of questions. Well, firstly, I address to Councillor Blackwell's point and the table on the Boorowa Water. And I was one that asked at the workshop, could we be given the various potential rate rises or percentage increases and what the impact would be. As we're all aware, there is an issue with the lack of reserves for Boorowa Water and it needs to be addressed. I think we need to go to the community before we hit them with a rise above what is foreshadowed. So I think this coming year we need to address that. And also by that stage, hopefully we'll have the final report on the pipeline, which might provide some good news to allow us to further that for grant applications. One particular question for the Mayor, through you, Mr. Mayor, for the Director. I asked for a costings on purchasing a mini excavator, or I assume we'd have to purchase the allocation of a mini excavator, a ute and trailer to clean gutters, and what the annual cost of that might look like. If the Director could provide some advice, because I couldn't see it in the budget.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's right, it's not in the budget as yet. We're still working on the costings. I have initial costings for slightly larger equipment as recommended by my staff, which is a capital cost of $570,000 and an operational cost of about $570,000 a year. Noting that you specifically asked for a utility and a smaller excavator we'll come back with the price for that as well.
Thank you. Well, I was expecting it would be available so we can make decisions for this budget. But perhaps if it could be ready by the time Mrs. returns from public exhibition would be helpful. And I specifically asked about an excavator that could be towed by a ute because it would reduce substantially the need for I guess signage or staff to block off roads, or whatever you call the crews that block off roads. Was if it's a one-man job to load it onto a ute and drive around, it substantially reduces the operational cost. Yes, they wouldn't be able to do big culverts, but it's often the smaller culverts that are the ones that get the least attention and cause water over the road. So whilst a 5-ton excavator and a truck might look better and blow the whole proposal up, my proposal was for a little 1.8-ton excavator that could be towed by a ute.
Thank you. Thank you to the director. Councillors, any other questions from councillors in regards to the budget? Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr Mayor, is this the correct time just to quickly bring up the cost of pool entry as part of the operation
what?
plan?
Fees and charges.
We've got a separate matter on the pool, a separate item on the pool, which will be dealt with later in the meeting in closed council, I believe.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's not in regards to that, it's in regards to the cost of entry.
Councillor Stadmiller, what would you like to say in regards to the cost of the entry? I think most of it's covered in the report from memory that will be dealt with later on, but if you wish to say something now, go ahead.
Just something briefly. I think the cost of entry for the adult and child passes and family passes is getting too high. I think it's higher than some of the other council areas for an inferior pool complex. We really need to look at bringing that adult pass down to $25 a head and the child pass down to $3 a head. We're looking at a family pass at Harvard over $400. That's one of the variations of getting a season pass to watch the Canberra Raiders with your family. So swimming is a skill for life. It's a life-saving skill. And we need to make sure that our children are learning and as much as possible and not being discouraged on a cost of living basis.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller, and I look forward to your input later in the council meeting when we discuss the pools on a whole big scale. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Any other councillors, any questions in regard to the budget paper? If not, I have a couple of queries. On page 3 of 6, on attachment 6, I think it is, I'm going to get no, attachment 3, sorry. Under roads, there seems to be some variations on the very first one, 106460, Harden Local Road sealed resurfacing. I believe there's an explanation. I just think it would be good if everyone knew what it was in regards to the funding going down to 200,000, then back up to 400,000.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. It does. It is reduced by 200,000. So, $200,000 is being used to replace a bitumen tank that is required, and that money will then replace from the emergency road repair block grant, bringing the hardened resealing back to 405,000. So it will be replaced.
Thank you for that. The next one that I'm struggling with is the Regional Roads Block Grant Capital for Boorowa, Harden and Young. As we spoke about at the workshop, and thanks to staff for adjusting the numbers to be fair and equitable, 600,000, 450, 450 for 25-26. But I'm a bit out of tune from then on with 26-27 and where those numbers come from and how those numbers were gained. Firstly, it adds up to $1.643 million or something, and there's no equity there at all. No, you have the Boorowa component going up over 100,000, 70,000 back up for the Harden, and Young going backwards. What happened to the fairness and equity we talked about when we went from 600 to 450, 450?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. We did change 25-26 to reflect the equitable distribution of funds. The following years weren't changed. Planning that we were going to do a total review of the program and allocate the money where it was needed, but it can be changed if councillors so wish.
Well, to that point, it was spoke about a block grant of $1.5 million for 3,000 kilometres of roads, by the far bigger portion being in the former LGA of Young. Given that it's divided between the three communities, I understand if work needs doing in Burrawa or Harden or wherever, it needs to be done, it needs to be done. But when we're allocating these funds, I'm getting my door kicked down saying, how's this working out? I've heard councillors sit in this room for years and say, we've got to be fair and equitable. But when it comes to this, we've got to put that next year's budget, then the numbers are all over the place again. So the general public read this, or councillors come in next year and say, well, that's what was in the budget. That's not good enough. I don't believe, having those numbers there, how are you going to justify to me for 26-27 they're giving an increase of $104,000 to the smallest road component, let's say, whilst taking off $30,000 for the largest road component, and also giving, $70,000 to the middle road component. How do we justify that? We have got time to rectify that, and we'll speak about it at a later date. But I believe that needs to be changed and fixed in accordance with what's set there for next year, until such time as a decision is made otherwise. The next item I'd speak to, Director, is 600047, and just if there's an explanation too, it's in regard to the footpaths. Burrawa get 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. Young gets 120, 120. Harden at 63,000 for the current year. Projected 78,000, 25, 26. And then back to 17,000 and 20,000. So is there a reason why it's 63 to 78, then drop back to 17,000?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 5,000 for Burrawa is a historic figure.
Yep.
The Harden figure is higher in the first year because there is a Harden CBD master plan that's been budgeted for that's being completed. And once that's completed, it drops back down to the amount that it usually is.
Thank you very much for that. That might, that covers off the main points that I wanted to cover off there. So thank you for that. So now, if there's no other questions in regard to the budget paper on those documents,
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stadmiller.
Just before we go too much further, back to your first issue there with, I think, the cost of the bitumen tank that the director brought up, the $200,000. So that, I think, might be something that we have to look at. Can't say too much more at the moment. But question for the general manager, does that bitumen tank get used to do patching outside of the former Harden Shire Council area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the bitumen tank, there is a report coming up in confidential to allocate money to the bitumen tank. In relation to your question, we will need to pass to the Director of Infrastructure for the utilisation. I suspect it's our only tank, so therefore it is. However, I will defer to the Director on its utilisation.
Yes, sir. Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the tank will be used for the entirety of the local government area. The way that the budget movements have been planned is to not affect the Harden Sealed Roads budget. That's why we're proposing that 200,000 to come out of the revenue funded component and another 200,000 to go back in from grant funding.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That explains it then. That sounds rather fair if it's looking after the entire local government area. On page 27, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items, I think, starting in 2026 forecast renewal year that are based in Harden. The rest of the page is Young, and then the entirety of page 28 is Young, the entirety of page 29 is Young, as is 30, as is 31, and it's not until 32 that we get some sort of mention of Bora, and it's not until the year 2029. Is there any sort of explanation as to why Bora sort of doesn't seem to be appearing anywhere in the priority stacks?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Stadmiller, could you please just let us know where you're looking? We don't seem to have those page numbers so that we're able to answer your questions.
All right. It says 10.0 appendices, Appendix A, renewal forecast summary. It's about 80% of the way through that one.
Doesn't help me.
Read right.
What's the name of it?
Councillor, what's the name of your report and your pages on that report?
I'm gonna go back and
The asset management plan, perhaps?
So, Councillor Stadmiller, are you looking at the asset management plan?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's the future plan. That's the forecast renewals. I'll pass to the director of infrastructure. These are estimate, but I will say it's a 10-year renewal forecast on when we expect those assets to be, but those numbers don't are not budgeted for within the future, the long-term financial plan, given that they are not funded. This is when we expect them to have to be replaced, but they are not budgeted for. So the lining of the different budgets, certainly that report is under review, but they won't necessarily line up because the asset management plan is a forecasting tool on when we expect we would need to, but we have not been able to cost those because they are not yet funded. I'll ask the director to add any further explanation.
Yep. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm unsure which specific asset management plan the councillor is referring to. However, the asset management.
It's in the bloody document.
Councillor?
Yeah.
Councillor?
That makes it easier.
Councillor?
They are funded. It says renewal cost and there's money amounts next to it.
Councillor?
Yeah.
Have I been sent the wrong paper here?
No. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I will say,
You
I
can
will,
check
I
with
will,
Mr. General Manager.
I will refer the staff to appendix 0.5, which is the asset management plan, and is page 30, 31, etc. of the asset management plan, which are the numbers that Councillor Stadmiller is referring to, which are which is, I believe I articulated. They are expected. They go out to page like 49. They talk about renewals for 2030 and the expected renewal costs.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the asset management plans, they are a forecast of expected renewal costs for the class of asset that each plan refers to. Those renewals are, or those plans are currently under review. Council's undertaking a comprehensive review of its asset management systems. So these asset management plans are current, but they're expected to be updated, and that may include more nearer term works for Borough.
And just
Okay.
yeah.
I'd hope so, because I'm just confused as to why Bora's got years of 2029 next to it, which is 4 years away possibly. And that concerns me if I was a resident of Bora, and Harding's got sort of a droplet at the start, and it sort of kicks into young. It looks like it's a lot of young, and I'd be concerned if I was resident of young as to all the things that they're fixing in young. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe this needs to be looked at separate and discussed at a later date or at another meeting. This is, I don't know if any other councillors read this, but it's considerable amounts of money, and it goes all the way out to 2032, and it goes down to Windermere Street, Kingsville Road, Southwest Corner. So $306,046 is the final item, and it looks like it's pretty well planned and ready to go from here, whether it's under review or not. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for your input, Councillor Stadmiller. In regard to the budget, it's an important document, as I mentioned before, and it is our budget, and we are responsible for it. So I thank you for your input. If there's any other further questions in regard to the matter, I'll have my right to reply
Just
to the amendment, or Councillor
through
Plenary.
you, there's an allocation of budget for trees in the Harden streetscape. I'm not aware of any being replanted. Could the director advise? Is there a number that needs? There's a number of trees and plants that need replacing. When that's likely to occur? Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor, for your question. Yes, there are a number of trees that need to be replaced in the Harden CBD, and that is currently being planned. I'd expect that to occur from next financial year.
Thank you, Director.
You winged that pretty well.
Well done. Okay. All right, so to finish off, my right of reply in regard to the question asked by councillor, which was fair questions, in regard to losing $246,000. We're not losing, we're just not getting it. This idea of losing it repetitively going forward is a myth. I'm sorry. I'm pleased to see, councillor, you're worried about the young community and if something was to happen and how would we ever repair it. You would be aware that we've upgraded both the main sewer conveyance line and the main water conveyance line a few years ago, and we did it. We didn't touch our reserves. We borrowed money. We had over $3 million for both funds. And I don't know if I said it earlier on, the current water fund is currently paying off that loan, as well as the depreciation and everything else, on the amount of money that's been charged to it now, and would have a surplus of $1.1 million. So yes, I appreciate your concern about ongoing. I'm pretty sure it was only a couple of weeks ago you were offering all that money to another community. So it's good to see you realise that it will be needed in Young, and we will need all the reserves we can get that are there and will be added to over the next number of years. So I've touched on where the money's going, the funds paying the loans. If something was to happen, we have the capacity to borrow money for the Young water. Because of the size and the number of connections, as has been mentioned in this meeting before, that it's considerably larger than the other communities. So yes, we have more infrastructure to repair, but we also have more people to spread the cost over. And that, I didn't create that, that's just a fact of life. So councillors, I would ask for your support in passing the document to go out to the public, 28 days, I believe it is. With my amendment in it, and having said that, I'll now put it to the floor. All those in favour?
Mr Mayor, can you clarify the amendment for me, please?
It's on the, yes, councillor Stadmiller, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I've got it written in my hand here. The amendment that I moved is that before the council's budget summary and revenue plan is placed on public exhibition, the access and user charges relating to the Young Water Fund are returned to the rates set for the 2024-2025 budget. On that note,
Does that need to say for 1 year only?
no, the understanding and the way the budget works, it will be dealt with every year, year on year. So when it comes up to us in 12 months' time, it'll be a whole different ball game about what we do. So, but thank you, councillor. On that note, I'm going to put the item. And as Councillor Foreman, did you want to say something? You went for your buzzer, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so are we just to clarify, so we're just basically giving Young the possibility of a year off paying their water rates?
No, you're 100% incorrect, councillor.
Okay,
I gave you
please explain.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt of saying something again. You've just said we're voting on giving the ratepayers, former Young LGA, the right not to pay the water rates. That's 100% incorrect. What we're doing, you had your opportunity, councillor. I was very generous and gave you the opportunity. But the fact is, I'm not going to read it again, that the rates stay where they are for the 24-25. I'm sorry, councillor. On that note, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, those against? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. The next item, 12.6. And thank you for your input, councillors, into what is a very important matter. 12.6, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, ARIC Work Plan. Moved, councillor Stadmiller, seconded. Councillor Douglas, thank you. Any questions in regard to that report? I'll put it. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Councillors. 12.7, Internal Audit Charter. Recommendation, receive and note. Moved, councillor Stadmiller. Seconded, councillor Langford. Any questions in regard to the item? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.8, Copperbella Wind Farm Community Consultative Committee, and we need to nominate.
So moved, and I'd like to nominate Councillor Mackey for the position.
Thank you. We the seconder? Councillor Douglas. Councillor Mackey, you happy to accept that nomination?
I've got so much on.
You don't, well, it's up to you. You don't have to accept it. I'm happy to do it. We need someone else if you don't.
Well, if someone else would stand up, that I would appreciate that.
I'll nominate Councillor Flannery. Would you like to accept that, Councillor Flannery?
Yep, I'll
Thank you. There you go.
put my foot in it.
Done. Yeah, you did. Well and truly. All those in favour of Councillor Flannery being represented? Thank you, councillors. Well done, Councillor Mackey. 12.9, cash investment and unrestricted cash report. Do I have a mover and a seconder for a start? Councillor Langford, thank you. Councillor Blackwell. Any questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous?
Can I just
Sorry?
make one comment?
Oh, not really. Sorry.
Okay.
The matter's been dealt with, unfortunately. No favouritism in this room. We go to item 12.10, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report. Receive and note the report. I'm going to move in a seconder.
Move for the question.
Councillor Douglas, and second it was Councillor Mackey, I think. And we have a question, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The proportion of people overdue on their rates over 4 months has grown from, in January it was 19%, in February it was 24%, now we're at 41% who are overdue over 4 months. It's something I've raised at successive meetings, this kind of slow growth of this number. Obviously it's our revenue and, you know, we rely on it, but also, you know, we don't want to see people in the community unnecessarily in arrears and suffering with debt loads. Are we doing anything about this issue?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as previously advised, councillors, staff are working really hard towards debt recovery for council. It is a slow process because lots of stuff has to go through the courts, which is a delayed process. You've got to wait for so many days between the next action. But yes, we are working really hard to try and get these percentages down. As you know, sale of land's coming up. We have started issuing things through the courts. We have started issuing notices about flow restrictors for water. I'm aware that councillors have been getting some feedback about that. So yes, we are proactively trying to address these issues.
Thanks. Just a comment and a question in follow-up. I had noticed a halving of the amount of folks overdue on their water, so that's good to see over the same period. Very good. What are we doing in regards to kind of voluntary compliance, engaging the community around, you know, like obviously there's the courts and the legal process, but what are we doing before it gets to that point to avoid it getting to that point? Because that costs us as well, right?
Correct. So through you, Mr. Mayor, we start a process where we send out reminder notices. We try and engage as best we can with the ratepayers. Unfortunately, that's not always successful or getting any action. So we do need to progress it to the next level. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the point to that is that if you watch this month to month, councillor, you'll probably go stir crazy. The clock ticks over very slowly, and staff have done a great job in the last 2 years of really reducing that. It was a big concern, as fellow councillors who have been there the last term will understand, and they've done a great job to bring it back to what it is, but it's an ongoing process, as you're aware. Yeah. Councillor Flannery looks like a question.
It's a comment as much as anything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 91, there's just a typo on the number. I'm pretty sure the amount outstanding is more than $11,875. I think that's
through you, Mr. Mayor, that was dated as of the 28th of February.
million though, is not $11,000.
Oh, sorry, that is a typo. Yes, I will get that corrected before it.
Just for the record, look, I just support what Councillor Blackwell was saying. We've really got to stop this. 4 months, and it is hard because you can't make people pay without hitting with a baseball bat. But if we can, we've really got to come down and make sure we can limit that 4 months to 1 year from growing both in rates and water, and we need to get the restrictions on water meters as early as we can. Otherwise, it just blows out.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Duffy.
Question through you, Mr. Mayor. Are you able to give a number on how many restrictors have been placed as yet?
None as of today. So the last lot of notices, at the last council meeting, we were in the process of issuing notices for flow restrictors, which we have issued they were issued 3rd of April, giving those that had overdue water notices an opportunity to pay before that final restrictor letter was issued. I believe that's due next Friday.
What's the time frame of overdue? So when are they due and when do they get their restrictions on? So what period do they have to pay?
So we send out the original notice, which gives them a time frame of usually 15 days to pay. They're then issued a reminder notice, which says you've got another 14 days to pay. Then the restrictor notice is issued, which gives them 7 days. Then we install the restrictors.
So restrictors are placed on overdue on, 1 year, 4 months?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. So what we did was we went through the largest amount of outstanding water and worked out that we have 20 flow restrictors of over $20,000 owing. They're the ones that will be targeted first. There was 8 for young, 5 and 5 basically. Yeah, well, there's 20 altogether. The majority being, of course, the bigger the area, the bigger the amount, but we're targeting over $20,000 first.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in regard to that report? Okay, I'll receive and note the report. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. 12.11, information system status.
So moved with a few comments or questions.
Councillor Flery moved it. Councillor Langford seconded.
Question, dot point 4 in the background, it says to assign business process owners and to assign responsibility to mod. Who are the business process owners is one question. On key, and I should begin by saying thank you for the updated report because it certainly provides a bit more information. On page 95, key focus areas for the next phase of this project will be enterprise asset management, performance planning, recruitment. Has a focus been of technology? One, cost apportionment, getting better cost apportionment to projects, to work streams and whatnot, and what do we know as a result of it? In relation to costing and productivity.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the background, point 4 in the background, to assign business process owners and responsibility to module owners, that's, for instance, the recruitment module would be the manager of people and safety. So it depends which area it falls in as to who we allocate as the owner of the module. And then they will train whoever they need to and have them working on that as well.
Sorry, it's not the directors, it's key.
Not usually. Usually the directors would oversee it and there'd be a staff member that is actually the expert in that area.
Right, okay.
Yep. And in relation to the cost apportionment, can you talk to that? Yeah.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the cost apportionment isn't really to do with the technology, it's to do with how we understand our budgeting. So in our financial improvement strategy, we have a whole service level costing work stream where it looks to get a better nexus between the work we do and the costs attributed to that across their entire cost of the business. So there's work happening in that. The technology is there to enable it to happen. It's about us configuring the system to report correctly.
That's what I asked. Do we know if we're getting better outcomes from council carries out a number of activities like work on various roads, footpaths, pools, libraries. Presumably, it used to be done from staff's work lists, and then it would be put into the, not the budget, the cost allocation. I imagine now, if for example, this was zero, it'd come in, your cost or your timesheet would come in and you'd allocate it. My question was, are we getting, has there been any change in the cost apportionment of projects, processes? Is Technology One giving us a better view on what's happening? And what do we know about productivity?
Could be a take on notice question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, yes, I can confirm that costs are apportioned based on employees' timesheets through Technology One. However, how that process has changed over time, I'll have to take on notice.
That would be good, because I think we would like to know, given the money we've invested in the technology, if we are able to get if we're seeing productivity gains, if we're, what are the learnings from this technology we're paying for, what benefits we're getting.
Yeah, pretty relevant point. Things would appear to be getting better, and we all know there's plenty of room for that, so hopefully that can continue that way. Any other questions in relation to that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadler against receiving that report. 12.12, Hilltop Council Activities Approval Policy. A recommendation report and the recommendation.
So moved with an amendment, Mr. Mayor, but I'll have to get
Councillor
myself.
Flannery, get the amendment before I get a seconder.
Okay, so I'd like to add a dot point C, and I'll require some advice from the General Manager on how this should be correctly worded. So I won't go to the exact wording yet, but the dot point C that I'd like to add in is that under the approvals policy, council nominate local roads where firewood can be collected by ratepayers. So I'll have to get some guidance on this. As you know, we put this to the LGA, and it was approved, and from there was supported that rural councils allow collection of firewood from roadsides, approved roadsides. When I look at this activities approval process policy, I think it's a move in the right direction. And I would like to see one of those activities approvals being collection of firewood by local ratepayers. But whether this has to go back to the Office of Local Government or whether we can add it in to our approvals, I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know the Director of Planning has a response.
Can I just add one more point? Because noting the overarching process of this activities approvals policy is that you still have to adhere to whatever the underlying law is. So if the law for stormwater is that it must have X number of drains and whatever, we're now giving general approval subject to the law. So the approval to collect firewood would be subject to not causing damage to the environment generally. It's reverting back to the law.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, this activities approval policy refers to a very specific chapter in the Local Government Act, being Chapter 7, Part 3. So there's a prescribed list of matters of which we can essentially grant exemptions to make the process easier, and the collecting of roadside debris from trees and the like is not part of that schedule.
Okay, well, we won't go on any further then. So I'll add a dot point 3 to say that council move for collection of firewood from local roads be added to the charter. That council advocate for it to be added to the charter under the approvals policy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually illegal under the Local Government Act, I believe, to collect firewood from the side of the road. But you can't change the act. The policy wouldn't be able to override the act.
Process.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, believe we can advocate for the law to be changed, and I believe that's the intent of the amendment.
Correct.
Okay, I'm happy to write another letter.
So we got the amendment worded. I'll just get Councillor Flannery to check this before we go on with it.
Local roads, I think, is particular because
Okay, Councillor.
Yep, very good. Thank you.
I'm after a seconder now. Councillor Davis, he'd second, righto. Thank you. So it's moved and seconded with dot point C there. Are there any questions or comments in regard to the report?
Just a quick question, more for, I guess, my own understanding as to why this is going out for 42 days rather than 28.
Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, a quirk in the Local Government Act where policies done under this element of the Act have 28 days for public exhibition, but that extended period for people to make submissions.
Thank you.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, just clarification for the new councillors. So under this policy, if somebody wants to put some tables and chairs outside their shop, they no longer have to apply to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
That's right. So there's no charge, obviously, then for that, which I think there was in the past in relation to A-frames and things. So who's going to police this?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we would police it. There is a element of self-regulation, but as you know, we now have a new enforcement policy. So when we find people in breach, we will be active in terms of achieving compliance. And we'll be doing work with each of the business associations and local businesses to make them aware of their obligations to be mindful about where they put their chairs and signs and the like.
Fair enough.
Thank you for that. And that's an example of goodwill to all the businesses. And I think it's a great idea. And it will be in the hands of each individual business, not to spoil it for the others or for themselves. And understand staff will be explaining the procedure to everyone. So I think it's a step in the right direction between council and community. Thank you. Councillor Stadmiller.
Just quickly, point C, I agree with the need for families to collect firewood. I'm just wondering, can the General Manager tell us whether we're liable in any way by approving this or trying to open this up? If a car comes around the corner and hits a trailer up the back and someone's killed, I just want an answer to that. And the third paragraph down reports on the background. At the end of the first line, it says such as displaying charity bins. Is that a direct sort of notation towards the canvassers charity bins that are in Hard that aren't sort of appearing to cause anyone any dramas at the moment and are making a lot of money for the local charity?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I'll answer the first question. Advocating for the law to be changed, it's not permission for people to do it. So if people were to act, they're acting of their own volition, and we certainly haven't endorsed it. And I'll pass to the Director of Planning to answer your second question.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm embarrassed to say we cut and paste that from the guidance from Office of Local Government. It's actually their advice as to what is inside the policy. So there's no intent other than the examples of what's captured underneath the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions in regard to the report?
No, Mr. Mayor, just finally, I'd like to thank councillors for a seconder on this, and I think it's fantastic that some red tape is being removed from some of the areas we police. Long overdue, and hopefully we can add to the list of approvals over time.
Thank you, councillor. On that note, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Against? Councillor Blackwell is against approving land. Very good. Thank you. 12.13, review of the Companion Animals Act 1998. Discussion paper. The recommendation is to endorse the Hilltops Council response to discussion paper, which shall be submitted to the Office of Local Government prior to 4 May 2025. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gallo. Seconded, Councillor Blackwell.
Could I speak on
Speak to you. Yep, you most certainly can.
I'd firstly like to thank the director, the manager and the two rangers that worked quite hard on this. To give you a bit of background, we sat down and had a chat about it. They put a lot of work into preparing this report. It's not an easy report to prepare. And it seems today that the item on the agenda has been sensationalised on Facebook, which has been blown out of proportion in quite some ways. To give people a bit of a feedback on what's happened in relation to dog attacks in the last 3 months, October to December, there have been 1,202 dog attacks, 1,235 deaths to animals, 697 attacks to people, 133 attacks to children, which led to 76 people being hospitalised. Of these attacks, 208 were done by American Staffies, 83 by Staffordshire Terriers, 19 by American Staffies, 19 by Bull Terriers, and 26 by Bull Terrier Crosses. Just recently, in the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 attacks in the Hilltops region involving Staffies. So the rangers have taken this quite seriously, and I commend them for that. Whilst I'm not a big believer of breed-specific legislation, I think looking at these stats, we need to move forward and be realistic. This is only a submission that's going to OLG. There's 128 councils that have the ability to put in a submission. Doesn't mean that our submission will be accepted in any way, shape or form. Anyone that feels that they'd like to put their own submission in, they can, and they have till the 4th of May. In that report, there is really some great work that they've done in relation to recommendations around responsible pet ownership and cat management. Thank you to the director and his team.
Thank you, councillor, for that. Has anyone else got any comments in regard, given that the recommendation to endorse it? Councillor Stadmiller.
I'd just like to speak against a couple of components of the submission. I, like Councillor Gallo, have issue with breed-specific attacks. Cesar Milan, who's a worldwide and renowned expert, says that the most dangerous dog is the dog that isn't raised very well. It's very hard to pin down the breed. Though my research today did find that some breeds are more prone than others. I personally have been bitten by a Labrador before, which people think is the warm and fuzzy golden family pet. But any dog at any time should be treated as a dog that has equipment to potentially bite someone. I just don't know where this submission has come from. Now, I see the director's authored it, but I'm not sure whether how many attacks there have been or by what breeds or what data we're relying on and why it hasn't been released to councillors before this goes in as part of that much wider report. But the director could tell me how many dog attacks maybe in the last week or month or 3 months or whatever reporting period they are and what breed specific dogs they are. Which areas, hard and young Burrawa, those sorts of things. I'd be much happier to support this. But at this stage, I've had people reach out today and say that what's going to happen to our dog if it's outlawed? I own a Staffy. We're going to put down our family pet. We're going to have another whole round of fear and anxiety. And then we're also going to have a go underground where people just simply won't register their dogs, or they'll be in cahoots with the vets like they currently are all over Australia and all over the world. And I'll just say that it's 49% something else and it's 51% this, and that's how they get around it. So we need to be aware of those sorts of challenges that we could face. Thank you. If the director could answer those.
Thank you, councillor. I'll hand over to the director.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we report on dog attacks every year through the annual report. I can't remember exact figures, but it has been increasing over the last 3 years, year upon year. I think it's around 50 dog attacks, but it's around that number. I can say from the lived experience of our rangers that Staffordshire Bull Terriers are overrepresented in the dogs that are attacking, and it's on that basis that we're recommending that this go as a submission to the OLG to consider, and nothing more than that. Also, just to say, is to recommend that they go on a restricted dogs list. It doesn't mean it's impossible for a very responsible dog owner to take the obligations of responsible pet ownership seriously that go with this breed, and and with that there's this huge risk because the penalties for non-compliance with restricted dogs is significant. So it's not a blanket prohibition. It's just saying they're on a list of dogs where you've got to be really careful as a pet owner.
Thank you for that. Okay. Any other, Councillor Blackwell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief, just to thank the director and the staff for putting this together. It's a very good submission, a very thorough one. As someone who in a previous life has advocated very strongly for feral cat containment and management, it's good to see that being mentioned here as well. I think it's really, they play a significant impact on our domestic wildlife, so it's good to see that that's also been included relatively strongly, and just to thank them again for their work.
On that note, I'll put the item. All those in favour?
Can I just have a right reply?
Sorry, you most certainly can, Councillor.
Councillor Stadmiller, if you go to the Office of Local Government, you'll be able to find statistics relating to dog attacks by quarter or by council area, and that's all the breakdown there for you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gallo, and I apologise for that. I thought, well, there's no objections. If there was no need for a right of reply, but you've provided the necessary information for Councillor, so that's great. On that note, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller. Passed. 12.14. Development application stats for March. Recommendation, receive and note the report. Mover. Councillor Blackwell.
With the question.
Seconded, Councillor Davis. Question, Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Firstly, I'll start with the comment, just to say the graph on page 151 is the best I think I've seen it. So very, very well done on that front to the director and his team. I have a specific question about a specific DA on page 154, which is DA 2024/0116, 70 Rowans Lane, Bendick, Murrell. It's been sitting with us for 116 days under assessment, and it is, from the document, appears to be just a single house dwelling. Can I inquire? And I've had residents, people associated with this development, ask questions about it of me. So I thought I'd use this chance to ask, why is there a reason why an individual house is sitting for so long with us at 116 days?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the issue is to do with how it relates to our LEP and the minimum lot size and the rural zoning next door to it. An update, because as you know, this is a point in time. Since then, the application has been refused and the applicant is resubmitting, and we've worked with them on a path forward that they can achieve that dwelling being developed and getting the consent without it coming to council.
Thank you for that.
Thanks so much.
Any other questions in regard to this item? Just seeing that was brought up, I'd like to thank the staff and congratulate the staff working with the people who were involved with that DA, and a great outcome will be achieved by all, so it's well done to the team. On that note, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.15 is a DA for dual occupancy and subdivision, 13 Wombat Street, Young, and the recommendation is that we agree with the applicant's clause written request. Approve the variation. It's been moved by Councillor Stadmiller, seconded by Councillor Langford. Any questions, or Councillor Stadmiller, you'd like to talk to them?
No, just a sensible use of land. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else like to speak in regard to the matter? No. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Slip over to 12.16. which is another DA for a subdivision 3 lots at 4207 Victoria Gully Road, Young, and the recommendation is to approve. Do I have a mover? Councillor Stadmiller again. Councillor Davis. Any questions or you want to speak to it, Councillor Stadmiller?
No, Mr Mayor, nothing but sensible use of money, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commentary? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you, councillor. We now go over to 1217, Hilltops Council Active Transport Plan. And the recommendation basically is to receive and note the report, adopt the Hilltops Council Active Transport Plan, use the Hilltops Council Active Transport Plan to apply for further grant funding and allocate the Capital Works footpath budgets to projects proposed in Table 1. Do I have a mover? Councillor Flannery. Seconder, Councillor Dodd, thank you. Councillor Flannery, would you like to speak to the matter?
Yep, I'd like to thank staff for getting this underway because it'll provide us with the backbone for grant applications and for the revisions to the first report that came through. Or I do note on page 460 it still says walking between the 3 towns would be unfeasible. It's like no, I think I wrote WTF on there. But seriously, it gives us the impetus to go on and look at some of these required improvements. Some of them are beyond improvements. They're just linkages that have been left out for no good reason, really. One question. The report, the GHD report, noting the costings, a lot of these footpaths are in front of residential houses. Our policy is that the resident pays 50%. I'm assuming the GHD costing is the 100%, not the 50%. So when we're working out what council's cost would be.
Yes, that's correct. It's the 100% cost of that section.
Okay, thank you. So basically, wherever for the wider community, all those costs where it pertains to footpaths in front of houses, council would put 50% of the bill. Harden Main Street, Neil Street, and I can't find the page now, but it notes to have a zebra crossing implemented. You either have to go with the standard RMS template, or you can elect to do your own mapping. Well, firstly, Harden, Neil, there is no zebra crossing in Neil Street because when we did the street upgrade, RMS at their wisdom removed the one on Albury Street, which used to provide access for the children walking up to the high school, because it was on a state road. And when we did the town upgrade, they took away the one in Neil Street. So my question is there any plans for staff to reinstate the Neil Street crossing, although it's not contained in this report, or was there any discussion about it? Because it certainly meets the criteria as being part of a shopping precinct, and I know that the report says 2 crossings are required in Young and Burra Street. So the answer would be no, but could staff review the Neil Street crossing and what would be required to include it in the report?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, I've already noted down to check that out, and we will look into reinstating that pedestrian crossing.
Very good. And what are the plans moving forward on funding for these upgrades?
So at this stage, proposed to be funded using the existing proposed budgets for footpaths and those assets. No new funding proposed, and unless we identify suitable grant programs to supplement that.
Okay, so I think I heard that correctly. You'll be looking for grant programs to
yes,
to get the funds for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dodd?
A question for the director.
Just might make note, Councillor Stadmiller appears to have left the meeting, that's correct?
Yes, I just advise he's having a quick break.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
The active transport is now an area that the government is actually targeting, isn't it? So there could well be funding around.
Yes, and
this.
I should say that yes, I believe there is funding around, and we'll seek that out.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman?
Just a comment too. I was pleased to note that the possibility of, I know it's long term, but Kingsvale Road linkage to Chinaman's Dam was included. So I was very pleased to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other commentary.
There's another question.
Councillor Flannery.
Just in the GHD, and I assume it's from their figures, not council's. Page 483, shared footpath 3 metres wide, reinforced reinforced concrete. The square metre cost is $185. Footpath, the line above, footpath upgrade, resurfacing, square metre cost is 150. New footpaths 1.8 metre wide, 150. Is it your opinion or council's opinion for an extra $35 a square metre we can put a 3 metre wide path in with reinforcing?
Yes, so as you stated, I believe they are GHC's costings. However, yes, that just reflects the increase per square metre cost of having the reinforcement.
Yep, so okay, so it's 30. My question is, do these figures fit with council's annual costs of putting footpaths in? And do we use reinforcement in our footpaths? The answer is no, isn't it?
No, not for footpaths, but in shared paths, I believe we would.
So bike paths we use reinforcing.
Yes.
And do these fit with our actual expenditure?
I believe so. However, I can check some actual figures and come back to council.
Okay.
Thank you. On that note, I'll put the report. All those in favour? Unanimous for all present. 12.18, the New South Wales Level Crossing Improvement Program grant funding. And the recommendation is receive a note and adopt the proposed project of the Hilltops Level Crossing upgrades for the New South Wales Level Crossings Improvement Program to a value of $120,000. Mover, Councillor Langford, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Dodd, thank you.
Question.
Councillor Langford first, would you like to speak to the report?
It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it's a start.
Thank you. Yep, you're correct. Councillor Flannery, get a question?
Is the submission complete?
Yes, I believe so. It's not very involved, but yes, I believe so.
That's good, because I noticed we got the consultation information start on the 17th of March.
Thank you. Any other questions in regard to the report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.19, Gaylong landfill closure. The recommendation, receive and note the report and note the proposed cap repair and fencing works will be funded by the proposed budget. Village tip closures, construct a transfer station for 25-26. After a mover and a second for a start. Get us going. Councillor Blackwell, moved. Councillor Flannery, seconded. Councillor Blackwell, would you like to talk to the report or?
No, I actually would like to ask if Councillor Flannery had the insight. I figure he would have more than the rest of us would.
No, look, I thank the staff for their report because I was one that asked the questions. And I guess it fits with my original opinion that it hadn't quite been finished and that the grassing and final topsoil wasn't fully complete. But thank you to the staff for bringing it back. And I did have a question here. Does it fit, or have we the tip remediation grant round that we were applying for, which was the basis of my question? Is it fallen outside that time frame? Doesn't fit within the guidelines?
It would fit within the scope of the grant program. However, it's a competitive grant program. The pool of money is very limited, and there's a limit to how much you can apply for as one applicant, which is why we proposed applying for just the hardened waste facility.
Okay, and I assume we've got sufficient funding in the budget for it to be completed this next financial year.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Director. Any other questions to the Director in regard to the matter? I note Councillor Stadmiller has returned. If no further questions, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller's against.
Sorry, 4 of us.
Councillor, that was unanimous. Thank you. 12.20, Waste Management Community Consultation Outcomes. There's a report there and a recommendation, councillors, and just bear with me. I'm going to read it out just so that people that are zooming in can understand what the report is about. The recommendation is that we receive and note the report. B, adopt the 5-year full cost recovery implementation in line with option 2A. Fortnightly recycling all existing waste facilities from 1 July 25. C, remove exemptions for domestic waste drop-off charges from the fees and charges from 1 July 25. Adopt the standard curbside collection service that includes a 3-bin system for general, weekly, recycling fortnightly, and green waste fortnightly from 1 July 2025 for all areas receiving the service. Provide a new curbside waste collection service to Kurawatha Village and 1 additional property in Burrawa. F, provide for the aggregation of certain parcels of land for the purpose of annual waste charges, consistent with section 531B of the Local Government Act 1993. And G, note that the draft revenue policy and draft fees and charges, including the outcomes above, will be placed on public display for a period of 28 days in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1993. That is the recommendation for the report that's in front of us. And before we go any further, would the General Manager like to say anything about this being linked with our exhibition period fees and charges?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this report captures the outcome of the consultation that was undertaken with multiple village sessions, surveys, and other submissions that were provided. There is a detailed listing within the report, but the note that G, as the Mayor has pointed out, it is part of the earlier report that the fees and charges, as articulated in this report, are captured by that report. The final comment that I will make, just to make it very, very clear, the aggregation of certain parcels of land that came through the consultation process where there was an unintended consequence whereby 10 properties nestled together, purposes for the utilisation of farming by related family members would have faced a charge for each parcel of land. This, under that section, enables us to only charge the parcel as a collective where there is particularly one dwelling.
Thank you for that. I just wanted that to be understood by everyone before I call for a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Dodd. Councillor Douglas, would you like to talk to the recommendation or the report?
Thank you, staff, for doing the consultation. I believe it was many people had a lot of ideas, and this is a great compromise between what was put forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any councillor want to speak against it or question?
I have an amendment.
I've got an amendment by Councillor Blackwell. to amendment, councillor?
I'd like to adjust point C to remove the exemptions from the waste fees and charges from 1 July 2028.
Thank you. Now I'll ask the mover, do you accept their amendment or vote?
Accept. Hang on. Where?
Just so we have this clear in everyone's head. Dot point C, Councillor Blackwell is asking that dot point C be removed, taken out of the document, out of the recommendation, correct?
No, to adjust dot point C to change 2025 to 2028.
So you want a 3-year, just so I can understand.
A 3-year continuation, yes.
Okay,
And I'm happy to speak to that if that's...
Yep, I'll ask the mover of the original recommendation first, is that accepted or not?
Not accepted.
Okay, on that note, I'll go back to Councillor Blackwell to speak to his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This exemption mainly affects Boorowa, as that is the largest area that has a current exemption with regards to domestic waste drop-off. Some of that is historical legacy from the previous shires. However, to my understanding and to the understanding of many in Boorowa, that has been maintained because of the discrepancy in what Boorowa residents pay for domestic waste charges versus what those in the other former LGAs are paying. If we go to the table on page, I'm so sorry, I have to just scroll to it. The top of page 596, we can see in the current year a Boorowa rural resident pays $220 for their waste access fee, and someone in Harden pays $39, and someone in Young pays $52. That is quite a large discrepancy, and so to allow for that, residents in Boorowa were granted an exemption. The reason I'm proposing a 3-year extension is that by the time we get to 2028, the discrepancy is much less. It's within $70 or so, less than actually. And so it allows for, residents of Boorowa who are going to be continuing to have to pay significantly more over the first 3 years of the transition plan to adjust to that. And then by the time there is a bit more parity in pay, then we can remove the exemption, as the need for it would no longer be there.
Thank you very much, councillor. Before I call on any other councillors, I might just ask the director if he has any opinions in regard to that matter or effect.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the councillor is correct. The exemption currently applies only to Boorowa area ratepayers. There are other areas that currently aren't charged drop-off because we cannot physically charge for that drop-off because the facility isn't manned. But there's no exemption in the fees and charges for those other areas.
I think you don't really understand that myself. But anyway, would someone like to speak against?
Have you got a seconder? I'll second.
You've seconded. Okay, thank you. Councillor Flannery's seconded that. So when you speak against, I'll speak against then. About removing the exemption, leaving it as it is until July 2028. The idea of the report, my understanding of the waste and all the consultation that was done, was to make it cost effective, cost recovery. So that I'm quoting numbers now, I'm not quite sure about $3.5 million deficit in the waste area last financial year. And there was time to go to the community and consult with them and let them know that it didn't matter which option they took, there was one common factor going to be involved. And I said it to everyone that I spoke to. I didn't go into the meetings, I've been there before. Everyone I spoke to or called me, I said, there's one thing I can tell you, it's going to cost more. And there's no getting away from it. The sooner we implement costs to make sure that it's cost recovery, the better. By kicking it down the road 3 years, I believe we're doing the wrong thing by everyone. There's another couple of funds that I won't mention now that the same sort of thing's happening in the same sort of area. We talked early on and spoke about the need to make sure we collect funds on other funds that are making surpluses. Here's a fund that's dragging 3.4 million down, and we've had all these consultations and all the meetings and all the staff work And the first thing I hear is an option to divert collecting those fees. So therefore, I'll have to oppose that amendment. Thank you. So we're going to speaker for the amendment.
Look, I'll speak for it. I appreciate what the Mayor says, and I think by and large that's correct, but a 3-year phase-in period, given the disproportionate nature of the upfront fee, probably is reasonable in the circumstances.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else would like to speak against the amendment?
Councillor Stadmiller.
Councillor Stadmiller, and then councillor.
Probably speaking against the amendment, but also looking for clarification. At the moment, the rest of the towns are getting a red bin once a week, yellow bin fortnightly, and a green bin from there, aren't they? So this is just doing nothing more than bringing the villages into line with that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's several different collection schedules at the moment. So Harden has a 3-bin collection with fortnightly recycling. Young has a 3-bin collection with weekly recycling. Brewer has a 2-bin system with fortnightly recycling, and Gaylong has a single bin with fortnightly general waste collection.
Through you,
That
Mr. Mayor.
sounds like a complete hodgepodge of sort of what's going on. If I can just continue quickly, Mr. Flannery, Councillor Flannery. Well, it strikes me strange that Young, which makes up over half the population, is getting its yellow bin collected weekly. Why isn't everybody just getting it collected weekly?
Not let the records, but the answer is that we won't be getting it collected weekly. We'll be getting it collected fortnightly.
So Young will come into line with the other two.
It most exactly will. That's what it says in the thing. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Just to Councillor Stadmiller, for your benefit, the amendment relates to if you go to the Burra tip now with your bins privately, you don't get charged a fee for dropping off bin, because if you're a ratepayer in the former Burra Shire, you're hit with a base fee for a waste access fee, which is twice that of Young and 4 times that of Harden. Because it's so disproportionately large, the legacy has been that Burra residents haven't paid for personal drop-offs of waste. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, sorry. Missed that bit there.
Okay, so it was basically against. Anyone? Would someone else like to speak for the amendment?
I'd just like to
Yeah,
speak
Councillor Mackey,
for
yep.
the amendment through you, Mr. Mayor. It speaks for itself, really, when you look at how long it takes for everyone else to catch up to Burra. To me, it makes perfect sense that we delay that increase, for the 3 years until everyone's sort of all on the same page. It's black and white, really.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Dodd.
Question. Are there any other unintended consequences if we go with that option where we keep the Burra the same and for 3 years until everybody else catches up? Will there be, so the tip essentially will be free at Burra as well as they get curbside?
Yes, so as the exemption currently is, before this proposed change, the exemption does allow Burra residents who receive a curbside collection to drop off waste for free.
Yeah, it's a little bit more involved. So on that note, any other speakers in regard to the item? If not, I will hand back to the Councillor Blackwell for his right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to respond to a few points that have been raised, I think the people in Burra are aware this is going to be an increased cost, and the amendment is not saying we prolong the exemption indefinitely. It's merely allowing a more equitable staged approach. We don't fall into line completely until 2030, which is over 5 years, which as it should be. We're trying to get people used to the increased cost. So it's merely as we are undergoing that approach, that staged approach, that we essentially keep the exemption for a short period while the, disunity in cost is maintained, and by 2028 that gap is much smaller. So it's not a permanent extension, and people in Boorowa are aware the exemption will go away. It's just about kind of pushing that back a little bit so they are not being unduly affected by the disparity.
Thank you for that. On that note,
Could I just clarify something?
yes, you may, of course, Councillor.
When we talk about the rural exemption, we're saying really since amalgamation, so nearly 9 years, Boorowa has been paying that much more than Young and Harden. Extraordinary difference for nearly 9 years.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they are the legacy costs established by the former councils. Notwithstanding the charges that applied, the Boorowa waste is still not cost recovery with that disparity in costs. And as to unintended consequences, this will throw back through the budget earlier to adjust those costs, so it will continue not to be cost recovery. The plan extends out to 29 and...
But the amendment is just to 28.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor, for that. Thank you, Mr. General Manager. On that note, we're now just voting on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5. Councillor Stadmiller for the amendment. 6. Those against. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I've got numbers that up. I counted 6. All those in favour of the amendment, could you please raise your hands again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Against? 4. The amendment is carried. It now becomes part of the motion. So the motion reads from 25 to 28. On that note, are there any more discussions, or would you like to speak to it, the mover or seconder?
Just a
before I put the
question
matter?
through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to the director. I've had a couple of people ask. The first consultation that we had at the town hall here, there was some talk of proposed expansion in Young. Are these figures based on the current footprint, or was any consideration given to extending the area that was covered around Young?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, expansion of the curbside collection area in Young was considered. However, we didn't get a positive reaction in the surveys to that idea from the Young community. So that hasn't been proposed at this stage.
All right, so it's just on the initial what you've got now.
The existing collection area, yes.
And I know it goes out for a few years, but the FOGO thing, that's going to be an extra cost. Has that been costed into it in the long-term plan?
No, FOGO has not. The FOGO has been mandated by the state government to begin in 2030.
Yeah.
So the plan is that the existing services would reach cost recovery by 2030.
Yep.
In time to factor in additional costs because of FOGO.
Thank you for that. Just in reflection, I'd question how's this going to work now logistically? Just in my head, this would be a problem I could see coming. Is that correct?
Sorry, could you clarify in terms of
putting this charge out to 2028? The logistics of having what it will mean.
So, operationally, it would be the same as it already is.
I suppose, Mr. Mayor, the consideration is now to be that all other facilities outside of Young will be charged the fee. So we'll have to implement a process. Not saying this is unintended. We'll just have to implement a process so that people will prove that they are from Boorowa to avail themselves of that facility from the former council.
Yeah.
So we'll have to put a process in place that people have to prove who they are when they come to the Boorowa facilities.
Which we currently have. Just say
There's a token.
It's a budget impact for those 3 years, really.
Thank you. All right. On that matter, I'll put the,
Can I just
Councillor Flannery,
make
sorry.
a comment before you do put it? Look, I think the staff need to be congratulated on this because we've been working on this since Hilltops started. It's actually a pretty significant document to get over the line.
It is.
There's going to be some big increases, as we can see from the table, to ratepayers. It meets one of the hard-fought battles of bringing fees and charges in line with the cost of the service, and it's going to take a while to get there. But you know, it looks easy to vote tonight, but it's been pretty hard fought, and staff have been beaten around the head about it a few times to have more village meetings, more consultation, and they've done that, and they've come up with a plan, and we're implementing it. So I think a bit of acknowledgement.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and then
If I could jump in as well
we'll
with
endorse
Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Blackwell.
Or just to follow on from Councillor Flannery and to furtherly thank the staff. You know, I attended 14 of the 16 most recent round of consultations, and the staff preparation and professionalism, that's the word, was exemplary. And yeah, just wanted to second Councillor Flannery's glowing endorsement of the staff. They did a wonderful job in the consultations and with this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and obviously not quite exemplary. I can't use them big words, but you moved an amendment to change it, so it wasn't all that good. But yeah, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Flannery's comments. People have been on this council from the start, are well aware of just how big a journey this has been. On that note, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Item 1221, Capital Works Report. Receive a note report. Mover and a seconder. Same old process.
No move.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Seconded. Councillor Blackwell. Do we have any questions in regard to the report? If not, I've got Councillor Flannery. I'm going to put.
Look, just a few questions. Roberts Park disabled toilets. Look, I think we're still in the planning stages of that. Is there any update on it or where we're up to? The stormwater repairs. I note that financial year budget for young stormwater repairs failed repair at Tyre Power. Is that not complete? I was of the opinion it's completed.
So Roberts Park first. No progress as yet, as you noted. Still in the options and design phase. However, noting there has been a federal campaign announcement about that. We may have some more news on that following the election. The young stormwater repairs, the urgent repair, which was the repair around the driveway of the business, was completed. The following phase is to repair some of the culvert under the yard and the buildings, which is, as you can imagine, a more involved process.
And is there a time frame and a budget on that? Do we have a?
Not as yet, no.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Director. Any other questions in regard to that report? Councillor Stadmiller.
Just the shade sale poles at Roberts Park, just wondering on the cost and time frame on those.
So the
Cottingsy Park.
yes, so the
Not talking to you, Duncan, talking to the 3-year-old, sorry.
okay. So yes, the shade sails, obviously you're aware the poles have been installed. The sails themselves are expected to be installed in the next couple of weeks. And within budget, we'll get very close to the allocated budget for that.
And what was the budget for that? Could we discuss that or? Ballpark's fine.
I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't have that. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Take it on notice.
Yep, I can take that on
Thank you.
notice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions in regard to the report? If not, I'll put that report. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.22, the operational works report. It's a report there, councillors, and it's receive and note the information. Moved, councillor Blackwell. Seconded, councillor Langford. Thank you. Any comments in regard or questions in regard to that report? Then I'll put that report. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 12.23, which I appear to have lost. You got it now. 12.23. Media releases and Office of Local Government circulars. Moved, councillor Stadmiller. Seconded, councillor Mackie. Thank you. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Now I've got 12.24, Hilltops Council Local Traffic Advisory Committee meeting minutes, March 2025 recommendation. I might just, before I go any further, mention that Councillor Dodd has had to leave. She has to travel to Sydney. She notified me of that before the meeting. If the meeting went over the time she had to leave, she would be leaving, so safe travels. So the recommendation, receive and note the report from the Local Traffic Advisory Committee and formally adopt all recommendations to be placed on Council's action and works list. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Foreman, thank you. Councillor Flannery was a seconder. Any questions in regard to that report? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 12.25, committee reports requiring no action, and there's the reports there from the Young Sports Advisory and the Wombat Progress Association, and the recommendation we receive and note the minutes. Councillor Gallo and Councillor Langford, thank you. Any questions, comments in regard to that? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We'll go over to 12.26, the action summary report, and the recommendation is note the status of the action plan. Mover and a seconder. Move it, Councillor Blackwell. Seconded, Councillor Flannery. Questions in regard to that report? No, I'll put that report. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We go to questions with notice, I believe. Yep, ma'am, 13.1. There's a question with notice from Councillor Blackwell, and the recommendation is receive and note the response. So firstly, do I get a mover and a seconder? Put the item on the table. Move Councillor Blackwell with Wood and Councillor Gallo. Councillor Blackwell, would you like to speak to your question? Were you happy with?
Oh, just wondering if the GM had any further updates, or it is as it is written.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's as written, but I might pass to the director. Director, do you have any further comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. Essentially as written, noting that we are still seeking quotes from builders and also consulting with the Yass Show Society on their works in the Yass Showground.
If we do get further quotes, can those be sent through as in some written form?
We'll bring any report necessary because there is no budget currently, so we'll need to bring it back for council consideration.
Can I ask one question through you? Because I did speak about this a month or so ago, because we did have a hailstorm as Harden did, and as a person who now has to replace my roof, and I'm only probably about, a couple of miles away or less from, has anything been looked at in the way of insurance to cover potentially some of the repairs to the grandstand?
As I understand it, we haven't. However, it was a pre-existing structural issue and not to do with the roof.
Thank you. Okay. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour of accepting the recommendation? Against? Councillor Stadmiller, you're against? Councillor Stadmiller, I can't hear you.
I'm for, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. That's unanimous then. Item 14, notice of motion. There's no notice of motion tonight. The next matter, I would ask someone to move and second that we move into confidential to deal with the rest of the meeting paper. Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Davis. Thank you. All those in favour? That's passed. Thank you. And thank you, members of the public leaving our gallery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While in confidential, Council resolved at 15.2-25/114 Hilltops Access Committee. As resolved, A, to accept the committee nominations to the Hilltops Access Committee, and B, continue advertising to attract further suitable nominations for membership. Council also resolved at 15.3-25/115 options for the management of Hilltop swimming pools, that Council assume the operation and management of Hilltop's public swimming pools for a period of 2 years. B, advise the operator of that decision. C, authorise the general manager to recruit appropriate resources to coordinate pool operations for a fixed term for 2 years. And D, receive a further report at the conclusion of the 2-year period, providing full financials and evidence recommendations for the ongoing operation and management of Hilltop pools. Council also resolved at 15.4-25/116 bitumen tank replacement business case. The Council resolved to A, to receive and note the report, and B, adopt the proposed budget allocation for the replacement of the bitumen tank. And finally, Council resolved at 15.5-25/117 award of contract RFT 34 Young Trunk Drainage Construction. Council resolved to A, receive and note the report on RFT 34 Young Trunk Drainage Construction. B, award the contract to the successful tenderer pending a positive outcome of the financial and performance assessment and funding body approval. And C, delegate authority to the general manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager. And on that note, thank councillors, and I'll call the meeting closed at 7:08 p.m. Thank you all.